Hare Krishna. So we will start the Isopanishad today. And I had some slides also. Let me share my screen and slides too. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so Sri Isopanishad, the knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as Prabhupada titled it this way. I need to look for this. So I know some of you have probably joined after we started Bhagavad Gita. So there was some overview we had discussed while we started the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll just go through that initially. We won't spend a lot of time there, just to so that we are aware. So the whole Vedic knowledge is broadly divided into two things, right? One is the Shruti, and the other is Smriti. Okay. So Shruti, as we say, Shruti is spoken. Okay. And Smriti is when somebody speaks, sages hear, and then they imbibe, and then they present it. Right? So that's the difference in them. So broadly, these are the two categories we have: Shruti and Smriti. And we in these two concepts we have seen that the Bhagavad Gita comes under the Mahabharata, which is a Smriti, Ityasa. We have the 18 Puranas, which includes the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Isopanishad comes under Upanishads right here. So that's it. So this is the Shruti, the Isopanishad. And then there are different schools of Eastern philosophy, which I mentioned to you when we had started Bhagavad Gita. Not I wouldn't necessarily go into detail of all of them, but just so that you have this understanding again that where is this all coming from, and what is being studied and done. Right. So 6 schools are there: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, and Uttara Mimamsa. So there are 6 of the schools. Right. So just to give you an overview of these, right? Sankhya, we all know. Sage Kapila, he spoke of it in the Bhagavatam. Vaisheshika is more of it's more on a material platform, the Vaisheshika platform, Vaisheshika. And so it holds that the consciousness emerges when the soul contacts the sansar, this material world, through the mind. Then the soul comes into picture. So that's one thing that they think. Mimamsa is more on ritualistic practices. Yoga, we know, is Patanjali. Yeah, the Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga that we went through. And then the Nyaya is the Nyaya. The word Nyaya in literally Sanskrit means logic. So there's logic is the one of the modes of acquiring knowledge in Nyaya. And then we have the Vedanta. So Vedanta is as the name says, Veda and Anta is the end of the Vedas. So that's the Vedanta philosophy, and that includes all, right? The different interpretations come under that. The Advaita, Vishishta-Advaita, Dvaita. But we probably say Advaita and Dvaita. These are the two different categories, Dvaita and Advaita. So Dvaita, as the name says, is dualistic, that we understand that God and I are different. We don't merge. Whereas the Advaita say that we merge, that they eventually merge. This is just a temporary state that we have. We eventually go back and merge with Krishna. So that's the basic difference. Mahaprabhu's philosophy is perfect. He gave us the Achinta Bheda Abheda Tattva philosophy. What that means is that we are simultaneously one and different from Krishna. And Krishna himself also can be personal and impersonal, both simultaneously. So he gave a perfect philosophy which kind of takes together all the other philosophies that are being discussed that are available under the umbrella of the Vedic knowledge. So that's the six schools of Vedic knowledge, and which come to the Astic. So Astic means basically, when in today's terminology, Astic means somebody who believes in God. But in general, Astic is somebody who has a concept and understanding of the Vedic knowledge. Gnostics who don't have that concept of Vedic knowledge. That's how the difference is. Where are we coming from? Just a reminder to all of you. Lord Krishna gives this knowledge to four beings: Brahma, Lakshmi, Shiva, and the four Kumaras. And then they have the lineages coming down. Each Acharya takes down the lineage. So we come under Lord Brahma, and then one of the principal Acharyas in that is Madhvacharya. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, and then we have Srila Prabhupada. We have his mercy flowing to us. So we are Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So we are coming the lineage of Brahma. Madhvacharya is the prominent Acharya in our lineage. We are Gaudiya because Gaudiya means Bengal. So Mahaprabhu, and then we are Vaishnavas. So that's where we stand. Okay. The Bhakti Shastri course that we're doing, many of you have started now, some started somewhere in the middle of Bhagavad Gita, but overall, there are four books that have been recommended by Prabhupada. Prabhupada established this concept of Bhakti Shastri. That every student, we should seriously study his books. Right. So Krishna is he's Sadhya. So there are two words there, Sadhya and Sadhana. So Sadhya means goal. So Krishna is the goal. Vedesha sarve aham eva vedya. Krishna says this in the 15th chapter. Sadhana is bhakti. That's also given in the Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namashvi. Right. So if I'm going somewhere, I need to know where I'm going and how I will go. It's not just one aspect, that we need to know both the aspects. So the Sadhya and Sadhana, they both are established through Isopanishad and Bhagavad Gita. Right? So Isopanishad establishes the absolute truth, that the absolute truth is a person. And Krishna and Bhagavad Gita further refines it, that absolute person is Krishna. Right? So in one way, the Isopanishad is establishing the Sadhya's personality, and Bhagavad Gita establishes his identity. Right? Isopanishad is pointing towards Bhakti. Bhagavad Gita is establishing Bhakti. Right? But then, okay, we know that. But how to practice Bhakti? That's given to us from the Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction. So there are four books, right? Bhagavad Gita, Isopanishad, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion. This is the third book we are doing. So NOD, Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction, they tell us how do we practice Bhakti. The NOD, for example, gives us the 64 qualities of Krishna. That's how we come to know about Krishna. And the Nectar of Instruction tells us how to practice Bhakti. Right from the first verse, right? Anybody remembers the first verse of NOI? Anybody there?
Acho vegam manasa kota vegam udarapastha vegam.
Now tell me the full verse.
Acho vegam manasa kota vegam udarapastha vegam.
You missed one.
Divya vegam udarapastha
vegam. Yes.
Lol, yeah, I forgot the.
Etan vegan yogisaheta dhira sarvam apiman prithvim chasishes. So right, and from there and all the way up to Radha Kund philosophy comes in. So that teaches us how to practice Bhakti. So that's why Prabhupada gave us these four books. That's why Prabhupada made it a standard that every devotee in ISKCON should read these four books if you want to become very strong in your Bhakti practice. And not just read it, imbibe it, enliven yourself, and then give it to others. There are only two messages Mahaprabhu gave. Chant Hare Krishna and give it to others. Imbibe the philosophy, give it to others. Simple as that. Prabhupada, so, okay, I'll just put this here quickly. So what is the aim of studying this, right? What is the aim of this Shastric study that we do? So first of all, we start with the theoretical knowledge. That's the foundation level, right? It involves acquiring basic knowledge, information about the scriptures. And it emphasizes memorizing, recalling scriptural text by reading it every day. And then the next level comes is of understanding. Beyond memorization, this level involves comprehending the meanings and implications of scriptural teaching, understanding the theological aspects and concepts presented in the scriptures. After that comes application. Okay? So application is on, where's the other part? Sorry, just wait a minute. I had some other thing. Okay, I'll just put it up like this. So theoretical knowledge, memory, recall, application. There are three levels. Application. Personal, implementing the teaching in our own life, preaching, sharing and explaining teaching to others, and theological, using it amongst devotees for theological discussions. That also enlivens us and strengthens our bhakti. We are told in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? Siddhanta baliya chitte nakar alas, iha hoite Krishna lage sudhrida manas. The Siddhanta, when we read the Siddhanta thread there, it makes us strong. Sudhrida manas. Our mind becomes very sudhrid, very strong. Intelligence becomes very strong. We know this is right, this is wrong. This is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm not supposed to do. That clarity comes right from the Shastra. Some of you might have been present this Monday when His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami Maharaj was giving the class. I asked him this question. He was talking about conviction, which seemed like a far-fetched dream for me. Conviction is lacking. So I asked him, how do you get conviction, Maharaj? How do we get this conviction? And he gave a very pinpointed answer. That was one of the most satisfying answers I've ever heard in my whole life. He said, you read scriptures. And coming from a self-realized soul, we don't need to doubt it. We just need to pick it up and run with it. So the Shastric study is very valuable. Shastric study takes us through all the levels of it. And then realization happens, and then higher thinking, skills, and values. So this is a progress, right? Just a memory recall. There is no heartfelt, there's no hard feelings in there. And then we start applying it. Yeah, some feelings come in. But then when we start taking responsibility for the mood and mission of Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada, then that becomes realization. When each one of us start taking responsibility, that okay, I'll do something for Prabhupada. Because just imagine that you live your whole life, and at the end of your life, if you're lucky enough, Prabhupada comes and he asks you, okay, what have you done for my movement? What are you going to say? What am I going to say? So we need to do something substantial that if you're lucky enough, Prabhupada comes, or our spiritual master comes, he says, what have you done? And you can tell them, at least I try to do this under your guidance, Maharaj Prabhupada. So we all have to develop to come to the level of faith and conviction so that we can take responsibility of Prabhupada's movement. Prabhupada once said that people who don't come to bhakti, to Krishna consciousness, are unfortunate. People who come to bhakti are fortunate. But the people who come to bhakti and don't take it up with full heart, they are the most unfortunate. As if you were given a very precious jewel, but you never had value for it. You just threw it in the garbage. So that's the most unfortunate person. That you got it. Yes, somebody came and gave you that bhakti. You heard a class. Some guru was strong enough to come and push it forward, and somebody pushed you to chant. But then, if you didn't take it from there on, then we have practically wasted our life. Because our lives are meant for spiritual realization, not for any other things. If there is no spiritual realization, we might be extremely successful in our material lives. It's of not much value because anyways it's going to end when we leave. It's not like when I'm born again, somebody will be standing at the door with all my money and my bank balance and everything. That never happens. So kamasya nendriya priti labho jivita yavata jivasya tattva jnana. I forgot the last thing. But unless the work that you're doing is not corrected, it doesn't take you towards liberation, towards Krishna. It's all useless. So this is the aim of Shastri study. I just wanted to quickly go over these slides. This was the last one. Okay, yeah, this was the last one. Okay, so I hope you all have read the introduction. If you have not, I'm not sure what to do. Because this is something I request all of you again. The purports are very long. We might or might not be able to go over the purports. If we don't read the purports, this book is complex. Isopanishad. It's complex. It's not like Bhagavad Gita that we know what's being said there. So it can be a bit complex. So it's best is that we read the purpose. They make it clear, crystal clear for us. Okay. So the reason Srila Prabhupada translated the Isopanishad, because somebody can ask us that, hey, why only Isopanishad? Because Prabhupada practically quotes so many different Upanishads. He quotes Shvetashvatara Upanishad, he quotes Katha Upanishad, he quotes Gopal Tapani Upanishad, and so many more. But then why did he pick up this particular Upanishad? So the word Upanishad, means to, the word Upa means near. Excuse me. Ni means down, and sad means to sit. So it traditionally means, it implies sitting down near a teacher to receive confidential or transcendental knowledge. That highlights the process of learning spiritual truths through a close and reverent relationship with the Guru. That's the word Upanishad means. Sit down, close, near Upanishad. So the reason Prabhupada chose the Upanishad to translate, so it's very, how to put it? It aligns very closely with Krishna consciousness, first of all. Actually, every single scripture aligns with Krishna consciousness in one way or the other, but Isopanishad. So the Isopanishad, it emphasizes the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ishvara, and his relationship with the living entity. This aligns with the core teaching that we have, right? And which Prabhupada represents. It gives a very broad overview of the Vedic wisdom. It talks about nature of the soul. It talks about the material and spiritual worlds. It talks about the importance of devotion to God. And then it has a very core principle of personalism. The 15th verse of this book is, Hiranmayana patreda satya sthapitaham mukham tatya bhushana parunu satyam dharmaya drishyate. It says mukham. So the word mukham means face. So how can somebody say God is impersonal? If the Upanishad is saying that mukham, the word mukham is being used. Once Achyutananda Prabhu, he was Prabhupada's one of earlier disciples, 60s, 68 or 9, he got initiated. He was once, so he went to India with Prabhupada. When Prabhupada went for the first time to India after coming to US, he had a heart attack and he wanted to recuperate. Achyutananda Prabhu went with him. Achyutananda Prabhu was traveling all over the South India. He went to South India. And in South India, there were some Brahmins, some typical South Indian Brahmins, well educated, well versed with the scriptures, but they were impersonalists. And they were there, and they saw this sannyasi, a 20-something-year-old sannyasi, and they thought, oh, he's just a joke, we'll just destroy him in a minute. What does he think who he is? And they called him for a discussion, Achyutananda Prabhu. And when Achyutananda Prabhu sat down, and the discussion kept happening, Achyutananda Prabhu brought that verse from Isopanishad, this verse, Mukham, that how can you say that God is impersonal if the Upanishad has saying that it has a Mukham? And that just destroyed the other party. They were just left speechless because they said, how can a 20 years something have such a deep knowledge about scriptures? That's the beauty of Prabhupada. He could pick up the jewels from the entire, this huge ocean of scriptures, condense it, and bring it in a way that we could all take it home and practice it. He gave us his books. Nothing in this entire creation is more valuable than Prabhupada's books. Believe me. Nothing would have existed. I wouldn't have been there. ISKCON wouldn't have been there. Temples, deity worship, all this philosophy, nothing would have existed if not for Prabhupada's books, if not for the message that Prabhupada wanted to give us and how he expertly, intelligently put it in his books. That years and thousands of years after he's left, people would pick up the book, read it, and become self-realized. So nothing beats Prabhupada's books. Nothing will, nothing has ever, nothing will ever. So that's the value of, and so that's one of the reasons why Prabhupada translated the Isopanishad, right? And it was very relevant to contemporary issues, materialism being rampant when Prabhupada came here, and the improper use of resources. The hippies were coming forward because they just thought that it's utterly not required that we go and fight with Vietnam, and there were so many things. So there was improper use of resources. So Prabhupada thought it hit directly at the contemporary issues. So that's why Prabhupada translated the Isopanishad. Okay, I'll take a pause here and see if anybody has any thoughts, comments before I jump into the introduction. There are no questions, or I can't.
It's one of the Upanishads, right? Isho. It's one
Yes,
of the Upanishads.
One is
So
one of the
Isho means-
100.
Yes, 108 Upanishads are there, right? So it
Mhm.
is one of them. So what is
Mhm.
Isho? Then when you say
Isha.
okay, so
Isha means
Isha is what you are saying, that sit down or close to the spiritual master.
Upanishad. No, Upanishads. The
So what is
Upanishad
Isha then?
So let's see. I'll show you the verse from Isopanishad itself. I will tell you. Isha means God. But I'll show you the verse. It's the first verse of Isopanishad. Isha vasyam idum sarvam. Isha, by the Lord. So the word Isha means Lord. So, and that's why I told you the heading of this Prabhupada gave that the title of the book is, where's that title? The knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Isho stands for Krishna. Upanishad brings, sit close and hear. That's the knowledge. Was that helpful, Madhi?
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, perfect. This is done. Oops. Okay. Anything else on anybody's mind that you thought would be something that we did more elaboration upon? No? Okay. So I'll ask a question to everybody here. And let's take it from there. If you meet somebody on the street who has never heard of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Isopanishad, and that person asks you, why should we believe in these books? Yeah, you find you coming from India, or you came into the Hare Krishna movement and you got this philosophy and you believe in it, but why should I believe in it? So how would you answer that question in a very practical way, not philosophical? How do you answer it in a very practical way? Why should we believe in these Vedas? How do you answer that question? Any thoughts? There's no wrong answer. Whatever you think. Well, how would you answer? Just frame it in your mind and see, okay, this is the way I would answer it, and give it a try.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So I'll just share whatever I just realize.
Mhm.
I get a chance to read the introduction also, so I have some more.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I think number one, it's saying it is Veda means knowledge. So it comes not from, it's just not compiled by human. Number one, it's given by the God, but normal people will not understand. So I remember one of the question I asked, this thing, why should I believe, to one of the Maharaji, I forgot which Maharaji. He said he asked if you don't mind, I'll ask you how do you know your dad is expert?
Yeah.
Immediately asked me that question. I said, my mom told me. So if your mom say point anybody, so you will say okay, that is your dad, right? So similarly, you need to just have a faith on this, because Veda is nothing but a mother.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes. Yeah, that's a very good analogy Prabhupada has given us, that only your mother can tell you who's your father. Otherwise, you can go bang your head in the whole world for the rest of your life. You won't be able to know it 100% sure. Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Any more thoughts?
Prabhuji, what? Okay, go ahead.
Sankita, Prabhu, please go ahead.
No, she can go. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Shalini.
Prabhuji, how I will describe is that whatever knowledge is stored in all these books, Bhagavad Gita, Isopanishad, or Nectar of Devotion, or Nectar of Instruction, even though you don't believe in this knowledge, but try to, whatever is written in these books, this is the spiritual science, the way we have material science, and we believe in material science, right? If somebody says 1 + 1 = 2, we believe. We don't go so much into ground level of why 2, 1 plus 1 is 2, because it is 2, we believe in 2. Same way, give it a try in these scriptures. Whatever is written, even though you're not believing it, but start with reading it. And when you try to read it, you will see whatever is written, it makes sense. It will make sense to you why these miseries are there. What is the reason? Are you always happy? No, you're not happy. So once you go through this book, at least you will get that understanding why you are suffering in this world. You don't have to have any level of faith in this. The way when it kid start reading 1 plus 1, he does not have any faith. Just because teacher tells, mom tells, they beat her time with the stick, we start believing 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Same way, start exploring these books. No level of, just start exploring, and eventually once you find that this is getting some sense to you, then you try to understand more by getting association. So that way I will start slowly. Means it's a science. Till the time you don't read it, you will not understand. There's any theory, you have to understand it. So give it a try. I would go in that path.
Yeah, that's a good bit. Yeah, Prabhupada said that the Bhagavad Gita is a theistic science. He explains this in the first purport of the book. Yeah. Yeah, no, these are good. Yes, Sankirtan Prabhu, you were saying something.
I just think, I mean, what happened to me? I was looking for an authority. I needed to establish someone as an authority. And so there's only a certain area where there's some authorities, I mean, you have to find, if someone's a dentist, you find someone, about the teeth, you find a dentist. You want to know about the spirit, you have to seek out some type of authority on that matter. And I mean, just, someone has to accept something as their authority. And if someone is sincere in their heart, it's not a philosophy or anything. If you're sincere in your heart to seek out that authority, then you will find it. It's that simple. It's so simple, it's scary. But one has to establish authority, and you're not. So you have to be really sincere. Well, who is this? Who wrote this book? Who wrote this Bhagavad Gita? Who translated this? Where's his authority? Who is an authority on this subject matter? And if he's there's many spiritual masters out there too. So I feel that if you're real sincere, you won't be cheated. You'll find that authority. And so then, I mean, then we can go deeper into philosophy between all of us. And what was the Bhagavad Gita spoken for? So Arjuna could understand the highest authority through the super soul. So there's someone watching and waiting for you to really want the truth. And that's the super soul. If you really, he sees, oh, this person really wants me, really wants what it's about. So you establish, why should we believe in these books? Well, we should be searching for the answer, and then we should try to investigate to see if this comes from an authority, and then you have to choose who's your authority. There's got to be a point where you can choose your authority, even if you picked a bogus yogi for some reason, or someone who's bogus, but you're sincere. You're going to see, and it's not going to make sense. Like she said, it all makes sense. Well, it don't make sense if someone's, speculative and not really together, and not coming from a higher authority, because it's all passed down and not concocted. So the whole thing, I think, is you have to establish an authority if you're really into this. It's not just a social thing where you're just hanging out.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good point.
Is that right or wrong? Or
that's right, bro. See, the more inquisitive you are, the answers come to you. Like the whole universe conspires to get you those answers. But that inquisitiveness has to be there. Lolyam, right? Tatra lolyam api eklam mulyam. That's the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're told that lolyam is the greed to know, the inquisitiveness is the only way by which we can attain knowledge, by which it will come down to us, the mercy will come to us. Yeah. So no, that's a good answer, bro. I can share my thoughts before I share. Anybody else has any more thoughts?
Yeah, Prabhu, I had one thought, on Sankirtan's, synopsis on that authority. One problem I have with that is that it may work with older people with the authority, but when you start out, stating that, there has to be an authority on something, right? An authority has to kind of take charge, basically, to kind of show you what life is. I think when you start like that, especially with younger people, they're already dismayed with authority, right? So they already have a problem with that. And starting with that, I think probably will create where they're shut down already, right? So if they're already shut down, then there's no proceeding, right, forward. So my take on that is, and I try to use this when I do, book distribution, and when I talk to people, is that authority comes, right? It's a, the Prabhu is correct. Prabhu is correct that you have to have that, but I think comes later. It comes later with knowledge, right? That once you're kind of committed, you come into it, and then, you're like, okay, I want to know more. That's where authority would come in. But just to talk to a young person, 19, 20-year-old, and you go up to them, I think you have to be an associative, right? You have to have that association right off the bat. You have to say, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? What is your belief? When you grew up, what did you believe in? And you have to take it from that point of view. So once you have that, and it doesn't have to be too many questions. You don't need to get into that person's whole background, but you need to understand where they're coming from, right? Their background. Once you kind of have that, and then what are their feelings towards that, right? Like, well, okay, you're a Christian, you grew up in that, your family, are Christian, and then they said, well, you have to go to church, and you grew up with that. But where is your faith in that? Did you, just the fact that you're talking to me, that tells me that you're open to other things, right? So once you have that connection, then you go into it. Just say, that, okay, based on Christianity, this is what you grew up with. But you know what? There are other things that can enlighten you, right? And here's an opportunity. If you're willing to step up, go through the door, and get to the other side, then you'll see that there are other things. It's just the world is not just made up of one thing. And I think that's where you have to kind of get them, right? That once they understand that, there is other things beyond what I grew up with, and that will give them the I guess a base to kind of proceed and learn more and move forward.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring out. One is association that you brought out. And one thing that Sankirtan Prabhu was also bringing out was inquisitiveness, that desire. So I think that applies to what you're saying for a younger generation. If they have that inquisitiveness and if they get the right environment and association, they can pick it up. So yeah, that's a good point you bring out. Yeah. So my experience was so we being born in an Indian family, so we all have exposure to all the demigods and right. So sitting up on the altar, Lakshmi, Ganesh, everybody's right up there, and not knowing what's what. So one thing that I realized is that the Vedic wisdom, it works in a very different way than the contemporary scientific knowledge does. The scientific knowledge has immense abilities. They are able to manipulate and control the external world. And that's resulted in so much technology. But then the modern science is incapable of controlling the inner world. So it's about regulating and harnessing our emotions, channeling our emotions. So that's why even though there's so much technological advancement, we see mental diseases coming in. Depression, stress, hypertension, suicidal urges, or whatever, they're rampantly increasing. Actually, the mental disorders are going to be the biggest health challenge in the 21st century. Right. So what I realize is that the Vedic knowledge provides me with a very good alternative to all these challenges that are creeping up. I went through these things, low self-respect, sense of victimology, sense of being a victim, and being mistreated, self-pity, so many things that now that I realize there was like a trap that I got sucked into, and I spent many years, probably decades in there. But when I come out of it by reading these books, I realize that that's something that these books have value in, that nobody else can give us. So so the Vedic wisdom gives us this aspect. Okay, right, there's material technology, but then there is also a spiritual world, right? So this knowledge gives me the capacity to control my inner environment, channelize my emotions, channelize my values. People are living in so much self-doubt and low self-respect, and they're trying to cover it by so many things. They don't want to go to the root of it, right? So that's a very serious deficiency in this world, which is highly technocentric civilization. And that's why people all over the world are turning to wisdom. And there's no better wisdom in the entire creation other than this Vedic wisdom. Any book you read in this entire world, I've been reading, I like to read more like listen and audible. But I've read probably a few dozen books in the past couple of years. All those books, I can eventually bring them down back to Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. No new philosophy has been propagated in this entire creation except what's coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Every single book, you can always trace it back to Bhagavad Gita's philosophy. And I'm reading this book by this a Christian priest. His name is Rick Warren. Amazing book, Purpose-Driven Life. Amazing book. But when I hear that book, I can see that he must have surely read Prabhupada's books, and he's picked up points from Prabhupada's books. Association, all that kind of stuff, love, everything from Prabhupada's book is right there. So I'm not sure if he read Prabhupada's books, but the philosophy is the same. And obviously Prabhupada's books came long before his, so they supersede. But then, yeah, so that's the challenge that I have seen. Depression, hypertension, all this is so rampant, and this Vedic knowledge is the only one that has a solution. Right? And Krishna gives so many practical approaches to us. 5th chapter, last verse. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvalokam maheshwaram. Suhirdam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim rachyati. Everybody's looking for peace. Krishna is giving you a solution for it, right? What's the problem? You know, what's the 5th verse, 5th chapter again, that comes right. Yehi samsparsha jab hoga dukha yona evate. Adi antavanta kaunteya nati shuramate vidha. That saknoti hai, yehi samsparsha jab hoga. That samsparsha, this touch, material nature, touch, whenever the moment I touch this material nature, it becomes dukkha. A child is born called dukkha, dukhi. So we become dukhi. And Krishna keeps telling us again. So it's so practical. Bhagavad Gita is so highly practical. Again, 13th chapter. What's that? Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti janvana. That this desire to enjoy is the seed of all my problems. So many practical applications for so many real-time problems that we are going through are given in the Vedic knowledge. And when we have this practical realization, right? When we chant, we discipline our mind, and that's another thing all over the world, right? Mindfulness and all that stuff, all coming from Bhagavad Gita. So we'll see that our mind calms down, it becomes focused, and it gives me a direction. It brings me from the passion and ignorance to a mode of goodness, and there it gives me some clarity. Okay, Premdam, this is what you need to do. Don't do this. Don't even think about this. That kind of knowledge. So that was my personal experience also. In addition to what we have discussed, we have some very good points brought up. That was something that I also felt that this is what it helped me personally a lot. That's why I would recommend this Vedic knowledge to everybody. So yes, so we should have that conviction that this knowledge is very, very profound and mystical. It can change our lives, and so it can help us harmonize our emotions with our values and our true nature, and that makes us a perfect human being. Just like a doctor, right? I take a medicine. No, I don't think many people know what's there in the medicine, but we just put faith in it. Going back to what you all were saying, putting faith to it. So then that faith comes, and then the realization comes. I start feeling better. So yes, so that was the question that I had, and thank you for answering back. So now coming to the introduction. So what I did, we'll do what we have done in the lecture of instruction. If you all remember, we would divide the purport and understand it. We break it down into steps, overview, something or the other, and then we'll go over the purport. So the first introduction, and where's the book? The first introduction is a lecture Prabhupada gave And where did he give it? To, yes, he gave it in 1969 in London, England. So what the devotees who were compiling the book, they thought it's a very good fit to bring in as an introduction to this book. 14 paragraphs. Prabhupada first starts with the 4 defects. That's the first thing Prabhupada is starting with. So we all have 4 defects. That is why we cannot understand. These 4 defects, they progressively and increasingly limit the knowledge that we can acquire. Okay. And what are the 4 ones is? So these are the 4 ones. Imperfect senses, we commit mistakes, we become illusioned, and then we have a cheating propensity. We cheat others. So first of all, our senses are limited. Okay? The further problem is that with these limited senses, we make mistakes. Right? We make, when you're counting notes, for example, you might count more and less. So then there's a tendency to be illusioned. We are very unconsciously error prone. Right? So if you know, difference between mistake and an illusion is that mistake is conscious. Illusion is unconscious. So illusion is that when we come out of a cold room, the outer environment might seem warmer than usual, right? Warmer than it actually is. That happens unconsciously. So I put some examples. Let's see if I have it here. Yes, okay. So I'll try to explain to you these 4 through an example. Obviously, it's not like a airtight, perfect examples, but at least you'll get the gist of it. So the first thing, we look at this material world, okay? And we look at this, we start thinking, oh my God, this world's so beautiful, right? But then because of our limited senses, we don't see the designer behind it. We don't see Krishna designing this whole world, right? So that's how we are looking at this world. That's a defective senses. Okay, so that's the first thing. So we imperfect senses. Then we commit mistakes. So what is one mistake that human beings have committed? That we are coming from monkeys, Charles Darwin. It was a mistake, and because I'm calling it a mistake because it was conscious. He just thought, oh yeah, this is the way I'm going to propagate it. But we all come from monkeys. Was a thing that he said, committing mistakes. Then, how did that mistake of Charles Darwin illusion the entire scientific community? They start thinking that yes, everything comes from that we come from monkeys, and let's do research to figure that out. They are fully accepted it and believe in the concept that yes, we are coming from monkeys. Okay, and what does that lead us to? The cheating propensity. I'm not sure if you all can read this, but I'll read it out for you. On December 18th, 1912, Charles Dawson presented the Piltdown Man, a supposed missing link in the human evolution. In 1953, it was revealed as a hoax, a mix of human and orangutan bones deceiving science for decades. And this is just one example. Scientists have done so much nonsense to align into Darwin's theory that we have come from monkeys. They have cheated the human race extensively. I don't know if you've seen that. You can just Google it, evolution, human skull. They will show you that how the skull has evolved over a period of time. We were more like monkeys. Our mouth was protruding more. Our noses were more broad, and then it kind of changed, and then we become Homo sapiens. And a major chunk of it is flawed. People have either found a skull, they have shaped it accordingly, or so they've done so much cheating. So this is the 4 defects we all go through. We all have. Right? Imperfect senses. We commit mistakes. And we become illusioned. We start accepting that mistake as true. It goes down into our subconscious. We start doing it unconsciously. And then we cheat others by that illusion. And it's very unfortunate that an intellectual class like scientists, when they propagate it, the world believes it. Right? Yad yad achrati shrestha tatta devataru jana. Sayat pramanam kurte lokas tadanuvartate. Krishna says this in the chapter, 6th chapter. Sorry, 4th chapter. Sorry, I don't remember. So Krishna said that whatever the great people do, the common man follow them. So scientists have very systematically made a fool out of the whole society. There's a book by Dhutakrama Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple. It's called Forbidden Archaeology. He has gone all over the world, looked at museums where these links to evolution have been displayed, and he's shown that how the reality is being concealed in his book, the Forbidden Archaeology. Yeah. However, this Vedic knowledge is beyond that. Yeah. We are told by Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya, no, it's not by Mahaprabhu, it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is telling us, in the Adi Leela, that Brahma, Pramad, Vipralipsa, Karnapatva, Ishware, Vakya, Nahi, Dosha, Isava. That the four mistakes, for the four defects, mistake, that's Brahma, Pramad, that's illusion, Vipralipsa, that's cheating, Karnapatva is sensory insufficiency, that we are not imperfect senses. They don't exist in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. That is why these four defects limit our senses to understand the scriptures. Prabhupada gives an example in the purport of Gandhi as committing mistakes, right? He said that if people warned him, don't go there, you'll get shot, still he went. His life could have been saved and all that. It might or might not be true, who cares? But Prabhupada is giving an example, a contextual example. So some might say Gandhi's decision was not a mistake, but that's not relevant. What's relevant is how Prabhupada is explaining to us the principle of committing mistake. So all this points to the fact that we need separate source of energy. Right? And when Prabhupada, you'll see that in this purport, Prabhupada used the word Vedas extensively. When Prabhupada uses the word Vedas, where's that purport? Let's go here. Right. Yes, okay. So yeah, Prabhupada uses the word Veda extensively across the purport. Okay. So Vedas by literally mean knowledge. Okay. Prabhupada is using the word Vedas in a very expansive way. Okay, he's just calling it knowledge, right? But then some people use Vedas in a very restrictive sense, the four Vedas, right? Rig, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Athar. Some people talk of these four Vedas. So what Prabhupada is using it, he's using it more in a way of an expansive way, in a knowledge, saying knowledge, which takes us closer to Krishna. So he's using it from that perspective. And then there is Islam and Christianity, which are non-Vedic and so forth. Okay. So that's about the four defects. Let's go back to the okay. So then there are three paragraphs where Prabhupada talks about that the Vedas provide universal and axiomatic truth. Let's see. Yes. Vedic principles are accepted as axiomatic truth. So the Vedic philosophy is very universal and axiomatic. Universal means it's applicable all times. Bhagavad Gita, 5,000 years ago, applicable today also. And axiomatic truth means it is self-evident and true. It's self-evident and true without proof or argument. That's right. So it's called axiomatic truth. You don't question it. No, I need to get a confirmation or something. No. It's said, right? Just like, my mummy ne bola, my mother said this, so it's an axiomatic truth. I have to accept it. So these are eternal, divine, uncreated words. So this is knowledge, words of knowledge coming. So they're coming right from Krishna. The Vedas are coming from Krishna. Krishna says in the first verse of Bhagavatam, it's Tene Brahma Hirdaya Adi Kavaye. Krishna passed on this knowledge to the Brahma Adi Kavaye, Hirdaya, into the heart of Brahma. So it's a divine source. This knowledge is divine. These contains truths that are very fundamental, and they're not derived from any other source. They're foundational and they're authoritative. As I was earlier saying, nobody can go back and say, oh, Bhagavad Gita has been picked up from this book. Some people come and say, oh, Bhagavad Gita was just written 500 years ago. I don't care, that's fine. But you cannot, but Bhagavad Gita holds these foundational knowledge, authoritative knowledge, which is not available anywhere else. So I don't care when the book was written. I know it was spoken 5,000, but if somebody comes and even challenges it, fine, okay, fine, you go challenge it. But then the knowledge that's coming from it is unparalleled. There's nothing out there like that. So that makes it axiomatic for me personally. Okay. So that's what the Prabhupada talks of in here. There's an accepted axiomatic. And let's see, Prabhupada points out, he gives a very good example. For instance, in India, cow dung is accepted as pure, and yet cow dung is the stool of an animal. In one place, you will find the Vedic injunction that if you touch stool, you have to take a bath immediately. But in another place, it is said that the stool of cow is pure. If you smear cow dung in an impure place, that place becomes pure. Without ordinary sense, we can argue this is contradictory. Actually, it is contradictory from the ordinary point of view, but it is not fault. It is fact. In Calcutta, a very prominent scientist and doctor analyzed cow dung and found that it contains all antiseptic properties. So you don't go and question, oh, no, cow dung is impure. No, Vedas are saying it, we accept it. Okay? Krishna is Gopal. He takes care of cows. We love cows. We're not going to go, oh, why does Krishna love cows? Obviously, there are reasons for it. But then you say, oh, yeah, it's okay for us. Krishna loves cows, we love cows. Just because Krishna. That's more than an axiomatic truth for us to follow. Some people can doubt it. Oh, why does Krishna love cow? Why does he love the pig? Why does he love the dog? Okay, I don't care about that. So we, being followers, we accept this as an axiomatic truth. Okay. And then what's the other thing? Let's see. The third thing is Vedic knowledge is superior to Pratyaksh and Anuman. There are two paragraphs where Prabhupada talks of Pratyaksh and Anuman. So let's just look at it. Where is that? Okay, let's read a bit from here. There are three kinds of evidence: Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. Pratyaksh, as it says, right? It's Pratyaksh, means it's right in front of us. Krishna uses the word Pratyaksh in the 9th chapter. Pratyaksha Bhagvam Dharmayam Susukham Kartum Abhyayam. That the philosophy, Krishna consciousness is Pratyaksha Bhagvam. You can see it, you can experience it. It's direct. There's a direct evidence for it. So Pratyaksha means direct. And Prabhupada is saying direct evidence is not so good because our senses are not perfect. Okay? We are seeing the sun daily and it appears to us like a small disk, but it is actually far, far larger than many planets. So that's why our senses are weak. So that's Pratyaksh. Okay, and then where does Prabhupada bring out Anuman? Does he bring out Anuman? Oh, yes, the Anuman, inductive knowledge. So, inductive knowledge and, sorry, wait the Prabhupada. There is inductive knowledge, which is hypotheses. So, Pratyaksha, as I said, direct sense perception. We see water, desert around us. It has its limitation. Anuman is mental inference or perception. Both are defective. They are subject to the limitation of the senses. In the Western world, these two things are known by empiricism and rationalization. Or rationalization. Okay. So empiricism means that way in which we can perceive with our senses. Rationalization means something we can consider through logical inference as a source of knowledge. But both are human intelligence based. That's the limitation. That's where Prabhupada is pointing out that is Vedic knowledge is beyond that. It's beyond this Pratyaksha and Anuman. So then he's showing the third knowledge, which is called Shabda. He said there are three kinds of evidence: Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. Vedic knowledge is called Shabda Praman. Right? So then he tells about Shrutis. So let's see. Transcendental knowledge is beyond this universe. That's why it's Shabda Praman. So we accept that it's Shabda Praman. Yeah, okay. Prabhupada brings out that he talks of different sampradayas here. And he talks of Vedantists led by Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, and he points out that all of them accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So Prabhupada is pointing out that they all have faith on something transcendental, even though the faith superficially might look different, but down deep, they all are dependent on something beyond this material world to get this knowledge from. Right? So we have published the Bhagavad Gita as it is because we accept Krishna as he is speaking without any interpretation. Since the Vedic knowledge is pure, we accept it. Whatever Krishna says, we accept it. We don't accept it partially. As I said, most unfortunate person is one who comes to Krishna consciousness but doesn't imbibe it. Many devotees I've seen, they come and they start either adding on themselves some things or removing some things according to their choice. That's a strict no. I was looking somewhere recently about Ekadashi. Prabhupada told us a very simple thing: no grains and beans. Fine. But now we have expanded it so much. Oh, we don't eat carrots, we don't eat that, we don't eat tomatoes, and this. Just don't try to bring in something that is not been, don't try to unnecessarily either dilute it or concentrate it according to your mental speculation. What Krishna says, we believe it and we take it from there. Or what a self-realized Acharya has taught us, we take it and just go walk away from there. Carry it in our heart and imbibe it. Otherwise, there is a billion things that will fool us out there. So we just hold on to Prabhupada and he will take us back home. He has a key to the back door. That's what he told his disciples. And we being the grandchildren, grandfather is more loving to grandchildren. So for us, surely he has a backdoor key. All he's asking us, be sincere in your approach to Krishna consciousness, follow the four regulative principles and chant your round sincerely. Simple as that. So this was the third point that Prabhupada or Krishna is bringing out. Prabhupada is bringing out in the introduction, that Vedic knowledge is superior to the other two ways of receiving knowledge: Pratyaksh and Anubhav. Okay, I'll take a pause here. Anything on anybody's mind? We went through 3 parts of the introduction. Anything you didn't understand? Anything that you feel is worth questioning?
Prabhu, I had one question.
Yes.
We have that where we believe in Krishna and everything that goes with it, right? There's no doubt, there's nothing. But how do you convey that level of faith or to a new person that wants to get in, right? Wants to understand Krishna consciousness. How do you convey that sort of almost like ultimate faith over, through like verbiage, right? How do you do that? How do you convince somebody that this is what it entails and you have to go in completely, right? Head first and believe everything and read everything and understand and then learn from other people that, what it entails and what are the parts of it that makes the whole. How do we convey that? It might be a general question. I don't know if you can answer it or not, but thank you. Hare Krishna.
So you're asking, how do you convey this philosophy to somebody who's new?
Correct. Somebody that's interested, they want to know more, but they're still on the fence, right? They're still kind of hesitant that, is this for me? How do I get to the point that you're at? Will I ever get to that point that you're at? And they're kind of back and forth a little bit. And how do you convey what you feel over to them through verbiage?
If somebody doesn't believe it, so believers need no argument and non-believers accept no argument. So one thing I can say is, and obviously my answer is not perfect necessarily. what I have realized is that people always appreciate you, how you live your life. So there was a saint in Christianity who said to his disciples that preach 24 hours a day, and sometimes you can also speak. So he was asking his disciples to preach through their action. People are very cautious, they observe others very carefully, especially people when they become devotees. They look up to us and they see, how is this person behaving? And that's what convinces them whether this is the right path or not. Books don't convince them, the philosophy doesn't convince them. Prabhupada disciples, they told that, I've heard Malti Mataji say that they never would understand what Prabhupada was saying. What a thick Bengali accent talking about philosophy, Golok, Vrindavan, so much. They couldn't understand him. What attracted them was Prabhupada's demeanor. Every single disciple, Prabhupada's book you will read, everybody says that when they saw Prabhupada for the first time, he was glowing. Prabhupada was glowing. So what I mean to say is, it's through your lifestyle you convince others to accept this philosophy. You cannot force it to anybody. As they say, right? You can take a horse to the well, but you can't force him to drink. You can give philosophy to a man, but you can't make them think. Something of that sort. So
primarily, it's your mindset when you're talking with someone, and what you're conveying to them. They are looking at you, and they're probably seeing your faith. So you have to kind of almost relay your faith over to them. That it's real, it's there, and it's something you can touch, you can feel. Right? Is that what you're saying, Prabhu?
Yeah, and see, your best example is you. Nobody else is a better example.
Correct.
If I see you happy in a workplace where everybody's miserable, everybody will come and ask you, you tell me, what's your secret? What do you do? I want to do that. Right? See, you'll get this, how do you say it, this mystical power when you practice with sincerity, that people will get attracted to you. You don't have to convince somebody, take this philosophy, please read this book, please. They'll just look at you and accept it. It goes exactly with children, right? I have seen with my son, he's 13 now. Everything I've said that he hardly picks up. Everything he sees me doing, he picks up that very quickly. So that's one of the most important ways I have realized of giving this knowledge to others. You cannot force into anybody. You can, and another way is that you have to be very smart in the way of presenting this philosophy.
Probably very sincere. Right.
Yeah, sincerity is needed. And I was saying in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first chapter, there's a verse where Prabhupada says, realization means you can present the philosophy without changing anything in a way that is acceptable to the people you're talking to. And that's what Prabhupada showed us. When he came here, he could have brought his hardcore philosophy, Bengal, wear this clothes this way, talk this way, use this way, bow down. He didn't give them anything. Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna nivesha. The first thing he did, some way or the other, I have to convince them that this is the right path. Then I'll give them the philosophy, the rules and regulations. Actually, when the first batch of devotees was initiated by Prabhupada, they didn't know that there were 4 regulations. Only after they were initiated, Prabhupada pasted that in the door of their house. That, by the way, this is also something you have to follow. So you have to have that understand. That's why we are doing this threadbare reading of these books, to strengthen our conviction in them, to clear our understanding, so that we can express it in the easiest possible way to anybody who walks into the door, and they can pick it up. And also through our example, they get convinced, oh, this is something worth having. Through the philosophy explained in a very practical and a relatable way, they are able to imbibe it. Right? I know Prabhupada once, when Hayagriva Prabhu was going for a class, Prabhupada very specifically told him, don't focus on rules and regulations, focus on the philosophy. That's how Prabhupada trained his disciples. So sorry, I went on long answer, but these are the 2 things that are very, very important. Your own sincerity and realization to express and present the philosophy in a very practical way, relatable way, that people can pick it up and take it home and practice it.
Right. So I understand. So kind of live and teach by example. So, right. I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna. Okay. Anything else from anyone? We can go ahead. No? Okay. Just go ahead.
Prabhuji, sorry, I have a just clarification.
Mhm.
Maybe how do we segregate the firm conviction versus the fanaticism? Both fanaticism, if we look the definition, like devotion and forwardness is the key, right? And so how we can distinguish that? Do you get my question? I mean, I'm just saying, we have a firm conviction. Somebody has a firm conviction, passion, and warmthness, and all these things.
Mhm.
Are we fanaticism? Are we going towards that? What
Sorry,
is?
I didn't understand your question, Prabhu. Sorry. Can you rephrase
I
it?
mean, having the firm conviction
Mhm.
and versus the fanatism, is it same, or what it differentiate?
Oh, conviction and fanaticism.
Yeah, so
Okay, difference between them.
people can people can observe the people who has deeply involved in the Krishna consciousness, very warm, putting their with firm conviction. Okay, this. Of course, the person is not violent. I'm not saying that.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, so is it these are the
Yeah,
qualities depicted, same quality depicted by the fanatic
yeah.
people, right?
I get your point. Yeah, I get your point. So, Prabhu, one very basic difference between fanaticism and conviction. Conviction is you're for yourself. I am convicted to the process. I have conviction to follow what Prabhupada has given me. Fanaticism is expressed for other people. That's one difference in these two things. Just remember one that. Fanaticism means that when one definition of success is the only definition of success. My path only takes you back home, back to God. That's fanaticism. And Prabhupada never taught us that. Okay. Success can be at different levels. It's like a pyramid, right? Concentric circles. Like, for example, if you see Radha Maharaj's book, Journey Home, it's in a mode of experience. It's not in an instructive mode.
Yep.
Right? So we have to understand that fanaticism is when we stick to the rules and regulations that Niyamagra, right? We read in the Nectar of Instruction that, okay, this is the only way to do it. I know a few days ago, there was this a Chinese couple, not a couple, I think they were brother, sister. They came into, and they both were not very fluent in English. And I was talking to them, and one devotee, he walked up to me and said, Prabhu, this guy, he was sitting with his feet towards the deities. And I, chastised him and I corrected him. I didn't say anything to the devotee, but that's fanaticism. How can you expect somebody who's not been born up in this kind of an ethos environment to accept this or to know that, right? I know it's not the right thing. I won't do it. I will never do it. But then a person who does not know it, if I force it on them, that becomes fanaticism, right? That, oh no, this is the way it should be done, right? I was in Denver long time ago. Denver temple, it's just so many Westerners that come in. You will not believe it. I've seen Westerners, a boy and girl, hugging each other, kissing each other, right in the middle of the temple. Devotees didn't come and just throw them out of the temple because they were more tolerant. They were more acceptable, understanding that right now these people don't understand what they are getting. Okay, so that's one broad difference, Prabhu, between fanaticism and conviction.
I got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yeah. So even the version of what do you call them? Exclusivists, right? That, oh, only my university will give you an engineering degree. Nobody else can give you. That exclusivist mentality is also fanaticism, right? Like, if you remember, there was this show Prabhupada went to. It was called the Les Crane show. And the host obviously was very smart, and he wanted to make Prabhupada angry. And he invited a Christian priest also. So he asked the Christian priest, do we go back home, back to Godhead only through the path of Jesus? And the Christian monk said, yes, that's the only path. And he said, okay, now this is going to be a fodder for a fight. And he said, Prabhupada asked a question to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, no. He said, no, my path is not the only path back to Godhead. And there's this verse in the first canto, second chapter, 6th verse, right? That was that? Savai pumsam paro dharmo yatho bhakti radokshaje ahetukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. That the highest expression of devotion is when it's uninterrupted and unmotivated. Then anybody can have that. Christians also have very pious saints. Muslims also are very pious, some of them. So fanaticism becomes when I am the only thing. And then also fanaticism is coming from a very sentimental platform. It doesn't come from a thought out, logical, intelligent platform. That's another difference between both of them. It's not balanced. A balanced state is inclusive, right? Yeah, there are many religions. We understand people have different levels of consciousness. If Krishna is accepting everybody, who am I to exclude others? In the 12th chapter, we have read that Krishna walks all the path. First, athachittam samadhatum nasaknoshi maisaram abhyasa yogena tato mamichaptam dhanajaya. If you can't become a pure devotee, then just work for me. If you can't work for me, give a part of your earning to me. If you can't give a part of earning to me, do it for something good at least. So Krishna is bringing everybody in the fold. So yeah, so that's the difference between fanaticism and this truth. A long answer. I have to give short answers. Okay. Anything else from anyone? No? Okay, let's wrap up this report then. Sorry, the introduction. Okay, what was the next thing with the slide? Yeah. So we read that it's superior to Pratyaksha Anuman. And then the next one paragraph Prabhupada talks, Veda is the only way to achieve the right knowledge. The 10th one, next one, right? He talks about that. Where is this? Is this the one? I always get confused by I think it's this the one. 10th one.
Are you sharing anything? I mean, at least I cannot see that if you are sharing anything.
Oh, you all can't see my screen? I'm sharing the Isopanishad.
I can see, Prabhu.
You can see it?
So,
Prabhu, we're able to see.
Okay. Prabhu, might be something at your end.
sure. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So yeah. So the 10th is this part that that's the only way. Vedas are the only way. You cannot use a microscope to see the soul, right? Sometimes our Pratyaksha and Anuman, they might agree with Vedas, the spiritual knowledge. Sometimes they don't, right? We just talked about the stool thing, the cow dung. Sometimes they match, okay, but sometimes they don't. But our focus is not on what agrees or doesn't agree. Our focus is on what transcends. So what will take me beyond this material, right? We know Krishna is the goal, and he can be only known by scripture. Vedesha sarve aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. 15th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 15th verse. I have to be known from the Vedas. Person who knows this basic concept, he has understood the essence of the Vedas. Right? And how do we focus on that knowledge? That's the part, next part, which is through devotees. That's the next part. Okay. And Prabhupada uses this in 2 places. I'll just quickly show you. Where is that? He talks of one of it. So, Prabhupada is saying that the Vedic injunction is that one must approach, the word compulsory is used, bona fide spiritual master, a guru. And who is a bona fide spiritual master? He has he has rightly heard the Vedic message from the right source. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru kathaitam. Sorry, I forgot that word. Which says that that one who's that's the verse Prabhupada is quoting here, that he has heard from the right Vedic source and he has imbibed the philosophy, he or she, and that person is a spiritual master. Otherwise, he's not bona fide. And then further on, Prabhupada says that it's hard for us to understand. The philosophy can be very baffling, but when we learn about Krishna from his devotees, then the devotee can deliver it to you. Right? In the song, Ohe Vaishnav Thakur, Bhakti Thakur says, Dhari tava pache pache. That I'm running after you. Why? Oh my master, because you have Krishna. So it's a whole chain. Your master is running after his spiritual master. His spiritual master is running after his spiritual master. Why? Because the spiritual master can give us Krishna. Krishna is bound in that pure devotee's heart. Whatever the pure devotee says, Krishna has to do it. Because Krishna is now bound by love. That is the potency of Krishna's devotees. So yes, devotees can give us Krishna. And then the last two paragraphs, Prabhupada goes through the history of Vedas and supremacy of Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's see, where's that? He talks about that how there was only one Veda earlier, and then Vyasadeva, knowing that in Kali Yuga will be Manda Sumanda Mateo Manda Bhagya Upadrita, will be dumb, intelligent, less intelligent, very unlucky. So he divided into 4 parts, and for different categories of people. And then there was Puranas were written, the 4 Vedas and Upanishads were written, and then he talks about Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala Purana. That is the purest of all. That's the condensed knowledge of all the Vedic literatures. Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Anything you're going through, you have in Bhagavatam as an answer for you. That's the beauty of Bhagavatam. And it gives the pinpointed answer. What is the duty of human being? Right? Narayana, that being a servant of Krishna. That's the goal. And that's expressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, so he talks about that, and okay. Yeah, and then he says that the whole summary of Vedic knowledge is the Vedanta Sutra, and the Vedanta Sutra is explained by the writer himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You might hear this word Vedanta Sutra many places, right? The word Vedanta Sutra is a summary of all the Vedic knowledge. You know, I showed you the chart, Shruti, Smriti, Samhita, Aryankas, Isopanishad, the Ityasa, Purana, everything summarized is Vedanta Sutra. But the Vedanta Sutra is very complex to understand. Janmadhyasya Yata, that's the first word of Vedanta Sutra. It's very, very complex to understand by anybody. That is why Vedanta Sutra had to be explained by Vyasadeva himself as Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's how. So if you notice, Prabhupada has finally summarized the Vedic knowledge as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's what Prabhupada means by Vedic knowledge. Well, perfect. We ended much within our time limit of 8:30. Anybody has any last minute points before we wrap up? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Next week we'll do the invocation verse. Please read the purport and be ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.